Hi everyone, I'm Bakht and I talk about books. Today I'm going to review, hopefully in a spoiler-free fashion, The Mercies by Kiran Millwood Hargrave, which was published earlier this year, I believe. Now, The Mercies, in a nutshell, is set in the 1600s in a small Norwegian coastal village named Vardø that is beset by a terrible storm that kills all the men, that drowns all the men on the island, leaving the women to fend for themselves. And the storm is unlike any that has preceded it, so it was just really unforeseen and terrible. So in this sort of context, there's a minister is sent to the village who, he's sent by the king. His name is Absalom, and he's sent, well, I imagine under the pretext that he's just going to give a few sermons here and there. He's going to overlook some administration and trade. But he has other motives. He has this really nefarious past in which he used to burn women for witchcraft. He was actually one of a fanatical band of ministers that used to burn women for witchcraft, often with no evidence. And they decided what the criteria for witchcraft was. And so, obviously he's an experienced murderer, but he has, he's got the authority of the king, so that makes him doubly dangerous. The story evolves about, the women in the village, how he turns them against each other, how he succeeds in controlling them, the tactics that he uses, which obviously he doesn't actually need to use a lot of tactics. He's already given authority by the king, and apparently The Mercies is set in a real historical context. The author, did a lot of research, so it's based on the 1620 Vardø witch trial. So it's all based. Obviously the characters and everything have been fictionalized, but the context and the backdrop is quite real. So the novel is really about, you really see the worst of men. You see their insatiable need for wealth and power, and how they disguise that with loftier kind of goals, and they find ways to hide that. To Absalom, the minister who wreaks all the havoc, the line from The Hunchback of Notre Dame really comes to mind. It came to my mind at least, that he saw corruption everywhere but within. So that sort of sums him up in a nutshell. If I was to write a one-sentence character sketch, that would be it. And then when you read a little bit more about the history, of the context that this novel is written in, you see that it was a political move more so than anything else. The king of that time, he was really old. He was obviously senile and had gotten a bit paranoid. So he wanted to use this policy of the unification of faith in order to sort of extend control to sort of tribes and factions who maybe didn't really recognize him as king. So he found this was the way to really target and decimate them and kind of scare them into submission. And in particular, the Sami people are mentioned. Who saw the Sami? The Sami people were in the TV show Vikings, if anyone's seen that. So obviously they're people that are very close to nature, and they do harmless things, harmless superstitions, like hanging horse hooves on doors to prevent evil spirits from coming in. So they're harmless people, but he kind of, he criminalizes them and targets them, and this whole burn for witchcraft policy was a way to control people like them. And then another recurrent theme that you see in the novel is how, well, at least in the novel, men are terrified of women, women realizing that they don't need men to survive, that they can fend for themselves, they can look after their children, they can fish, they can till the land. So all the male characters, they are terrified that the women will figure this out, and that once they figure that out, they will cooperate with one another and band together, and then they will lose control over them. So they're really terrified of this notion. So they want to create obstacles, and they want to create ways in which they can keep the women of this now free village of Vardø sort of contained in a way, and keep them dependent almost. So it's amazing the way the culture has been researched by Kiran Millwood Hargrave, who isn't Norwegian and is actually British. So all the names and everything down to a T is quite. I'm imagining that it's spot on. I don't know about that culture, so if I don't know. I think somebody who belongs to that culture would probably answer that better, I feel. If I was to speak about the writing in itself in terms of its literary quality, the writing is some of the best that I've seen in a long time. It becomes you become aware quite early on that the writer has significant skill, because it sort of engulfs you. You feel yourself in that environment. You're running with your toes in the sand, the feeling of wool against cracked skin, the scent of the dead, you know, the hard ground, cold seeping into your bones. All you feel all the sensations that the characters feel. You feel like you're there. I also sort of halfway through I became keenly aware that this was one of those novels that either you just get right away or you sort of end up disliking a little bit. So it's a novel that's hard to be neutral about. Now I really loved it, and it had a profound impact on me, and I've been thinking about it ever since I stopped reading it, and it's been on my mind, and it taught me a lot of things. It gave me new perspectives. So I think that it is a marvelous novel. It's not her debut. I think she's written a couple of children's books before this. So this is, I think, her debut in the sense that it's the first adult novel that she's ever written. And you know, when I mentioned that it's either something that you like or dislike, there's no middle ground. It's very much in that way, you know, the way I felt about Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood. You know, obviously it's very grey and dark and depressing, but also magnificent. So it really depends. Now, of course, I can't speak to anyone's literary preferences or tastes, but I thought that it is quite astounding. Gives you a lot to think about. You know, I mean, it's not a happy-go-lucky, but then again, I never did like very happy-go-lucky anything. Although on occasion, I will gravitate towards that. Anyway, so really give this a read. I think it should be available everywhere since it's so recently been published, 6 or 7 months ago. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you pick it up. And if you've already read it, please leave your comments. Leave your experiences with it, rather, in the comments below. I love to hear them. And please take care of yourselves. Goodbye.